G'day, welcome to the Chicken Channel. This little recipe is a very, very simple one and it's quite attractive. It's a stuffed chicken breast. It's a little technique that you can apply to whatever flavours take your fancy, but just watch the little technique. I'm going to use a leek stuffing. Leek and chicken go incredibly well together and we'll wrap that in prosciutto, but the leek stuffing first of all. One thing about leeks is if you can get a large one like this where the white and the lime green is fairly large before the leaves start to open up, you can cut it off there and it doesn't need washing out in between the layers. If you get a smaller leek, quite often you'll find that these layers can trap the dirt. That's where you cut through the end and put that into water and really flush out the dirt between the layers. Important part in leek preparation. Once you've done that, chop them into just roughly that sort of size, because we're going to sweat these down. Probably all we need there. We're going to sweat these down. Very important principle in cooking is this: how you cook governs the final flavour. It seems like an obvious thing to say, but let me illustrate it over this recipe. Into a pot, I'm going to pour about 1/4 cup of water and about 60 grams of butter. And into that, I'm going to pick up these leeks and drop them into this pan here. Now, what I'm doing is cooking the leeks slowly. If I'd taken exactly the same pan with exactly the same butter and put in the same leeks, but it was high heat, would have created a completely different flavour. So, how we cook it is absolutely pivotal to the final flavour. So on a gentle heat, with some seasoning of salt and white pepper, over about, say, 5 minutes, gentle stirring, this will soften nicely and will capture the flavour that we're going to use in our stuffing. I'll stir it every now and then, but let's move across to our chook. And what a fine chicken it is. We're using either Leonica or Bannockburn. Now, here are the chicken breasts, and they've been Frenched, right? What that means is that last bone has been left on, scraped back, and so the presentation looks a little bit better. Now, why Leonica or Bannockburn is perfect for this is because they haven't been processed in water. So therefore, these muscles are quite dry and plump. And therefore, once you cut them and stuff them, they hold their shape rather well. Now, what we have to do is cut a pocket into the breast. So looking at this one here, we lift it up, and the thickest part of the breast there, roughly through the middle, just cut a hole with a sharp knife and just create a bit of a pocket. All right, you don't have to make a big opening there, but all we've done is a bit of a pouch. Well, that's the pockets created. We now have to fill it with the stuffing. Now, the stuffing is a bread stuffing, and what we've got here is fresh bread that's been blended a little bit coarsely. Over to the leeks. Now, these have softened sufficiently, okay? But to make a stuffing, the stuffing itself has to be more seasoned because it's to, number one, season the bread and season the chicken. So, at this point, we add more butter, about another 25 grams. At this point, a bit more salt and a bit more pepper. The reason we didn't add the butter right at the very beginning is we didn't want the butter to separate and go all oily, right? By stirring it in here and now, this leek butter mixture becomes a softer mixture rather than an oily mixture. Good. Just as that butter completely dissolves, we're going to add sufficient breadcrumbs to make the stuffing. Now, what keeps the stuffing together is the butter, the moisture in there, not water, but the butter. So mix this through. We can actually switch the heat off at this point. Mix this through and let the bread absorb those extra juices and moisture. Now in this case we've left some crust on the bread. Up to you whether you want to leave that or not. Without the crust it becomes a softer, smoother flavour. With the crust a little bit more robust. Okay, now the way we test this is at home, wait for this to cool down slightly. For you, I'm going in. Hold it. That's fine. No brain, no pain. Now if that can hold together like that, it'll hold together in the bird, okay? I think it can take just a little bit more bread. Perfect, simple as that. At this point you taste it, but I can tell from what I've added it's about the right amount. And you should really cool it down slightly. But over to the chicken. The pockets have already been created. Time now to squeeze a small amount of stuffing into a little ball like that. And over to our chicken. Feel it nice and plump. Now I've left the tenderloin on, right, because it can further protect. And the next thing we're going to do is wrap with some prosciutto. Here we have some prosciutto. When you have it sliced, ask them to keep it completely intact. So I say, slice off the first one, and thin is good, but it must be fully intact. Now at the end of the day, we want the prosciutto to finish there, right? So it folds just under. So pick that spot, under we go, and the prosciutto so it sits underneath. Right, next piece, want the prosciutto to go underneath, put it on top, fold it underneath. 2 pieces is all you really need. And this preparation is ideally done a few hours before, because what will happen is the moisture from the prosciutto and the chicken will cause this to really stick well together. To cook our breasts, choose a fry pan that's good for the oven. And these heavy based ones are pretty good too, because they do generate more heat and hold their heat. Into that, just a splash of olive oil to wet the bottom, and a bit of butter for flavour. It's consistent with the leek and the stuffing flavour. All right, swirl that away. As soon as that foams, put the chicken the fold side down, okay, as we had them on the bench. That way, that will seal the folding and prevent it from unwrapping in the pan. Don't let the chicken pieces touch. And after about, say, 30 seconds or so on that side, turn it over and seal it on the other side. Once you've got the presentation dead right, pop it into a 180-degree oven and cook that for about 15-20 minutes. Have a bit of a squeeze. Let it rest for a further 5 minutes. Then your chicken is ready. Carve that, serve it with a pea puree and your favourite sauce. What an attractive, fantastic meal. Out of the oven and resting for about 5 minutes to redistribute the juices. It's really important to have a sharp knife, because you want to keep the presentation, which I'm not going to show you till it's in the pan. Keep the presentation nice and clean. Look at that. Really very, very simple to do. The fact that we're using Leonica or Bannockburn chicken keeps the breast meat nice and firm, so it's easy to stuff. I think you'll agree that's a sensational dinner for two.